I'm now joined on the line by Neal McDonough to discuss the upcoming premiere debuting tonight, March the 27th, in the UK and Ireland of Project Blue Book, which is debuting on Channel Sci-Fi in UK. And Neal, maybe you can tell us a bit about Project Blue Book.
Say that again, Jim, I'm sorry?
Maybe you can tell us a bit about Project Blue Book.
Oh, yeah, sure. The way I like to say it is it's basically X-Files in the 50s. But based on all real, true-life events. The Blue Books were these books that were kept by the government about all the studies and the findings of UFOs at that time. And my job in the show is to make sure the public doesn't know about the Blue Books and keep everything as hush-hush as possible so as not to create some kind of mass hysteria. And it's all true stuff. My character is based on General Twining. We changed the name to Harding in the show. It's just a fascinating look into what it was like with the mass hysteria that was going on with the UFOs in the 50s. And I love this show. There's so much eye candy to it. It's filmed so beautifully, but the story of the UFOs is really, to me, fascinating, as I believe it's pretty fascinating to every human being.
Yeah, and I suppose you mentioned there, as you said, Neal, it's based on true events in relation to the US Air Force investigating over 12,000 reported UFO sightings between 1952 and 1969. And you played General James Harding, a sort of hardliner who's trying to keep this gag order sort of in place. And you will sort of enlist to Michael Malarkey, who plays Captain Michael Quinn, and scientist played by Aidan Gillen, who plays Dr. J. Allen Hynek, and they go around trying to prove that this doesn't exist or does exist, and at least an awful lot of conspiracy theories.
Yeah, well, let's go back to the names you just mentioned first of all, and you know what I love so much about showing up to work is that the four lead guys in the show are all Irishmen. And Aidan in particular being born there, but my father is from Clifton and my mother's from Mennell.
All right.
So it's great to hang out with a bunch of Irish guys in the set every day, and to be able to be part of this, this show again, the conspiracy, what happened at the time, and allowing the public now to see what was going on and have conversations about it. It's no wonder the show has become the #1 new scripted show in the United States, and I'm so excited for it to start airing overseas. So the rest of my family and relatives, my sister still lives in Clifton, and so she'll be able to see it, and so I'm very, very proud of that.
Yeah, and Neal, I suppose in relation to Project Blue Book, how did the opportunity come about for you to get cast in the role as James Harding?
My beautiful, fantastic, wonderful, and knowledgeable wife saw that Robert Shanks was doing a TV series in Vancouver, which is my home, and I said, well, I got to be part of that. And then when I found out what it was, I called the producers, and they said, well, it's funny you said that because you are #1 on our list to play General Harding. I was like, well, it's meant to be, and it was as simple as that. And and I've had such a wonderful time being part of the show. The cast is terrific. The crew is amazing, and to work for Robert Zemeckis, the Back to the Futures and the Cubs and everything else that he's done, so many things. It's an honor to really be able to work for him like that.
Yeah, and you told us there, Neal, that the shooting of the show was located in Vancouver. Maybe you can tell us about the production week on set in relation to Project Blue Book, from the time you sat down for the initial table read for each episode to the time the actual episode went live shooting the actual episode. How long does it take a working week to shoot practically one episode?
Well, this was different. It was we were giving a lot of extra time because History Channel really wanted to make sure that we did it right. So we weren't rushed to get the days done. We were told to take your time, do it right, tell the story correctly, and make it great. And for production value, that is a massive difference. That's why the show looks so good. So we had extra time, more than most any other show, especially as a freshman show, to take the extra time to get those shots and to do it right. if they didn't like the way something was done, there'd be reshoots, and we'd reshoot things and make sure that everything was done correctly. The thing about the show was, we filmed the show, and it didn't come out for almost a year after we completed the show. We completed the show last March, and I believe was it March we finished the show, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And it didn't air until the following January. So that's quite some time for a show. It's usually a lot quicker than that. But again, it was them making sure they were done correctly and doing it right. And now we're going to start the show this year in June, and I'm pretty certain it'll probably come out the same time in January again. But we know what works now and how to do it, and it's a pretty well-oiled machine at this point. So we're really looking forward to jumping into season 2.
Yeah, and I suppose, as you said, there's an awful lot of optimism and there's an awful lot of hype here over in Ireland and in the UK in relation to Project Blue Book, with season 1 hitting our screens as we speak. Actually, tonight it's hitting our screens in the next hour or two. And I suppose. Oh, yay! Yeah, so it's actually, you're speaking to us roughly an hour and a half before it actually comes live. So, Neal, I suppose in relation to Project Blue Book and your own character, maybe you can tell us over the course of season 1, what did we learn, or do we learn more dark truths about the character James Harding, and is his intentions maybe not in the right place, or is he bound by the government that he serves?
He is a patriot, and that's the way we play it. And the real life General Twining was that. He was the youngest 4-star general in the history of the armed services, and he was really gung ho America. He really wanted to do the right thing for the United States of America. But he was a terrific guy. Everyone really liked him, and you'll see in the beginning of the series, you're not exactly sure what his agenda is, and as the series progresses, you see that he cares so much about America, and his job from the president is to protect the people. And that's what he will do that at whatever cost it has to be done. But that's his job. But underneath it all, you see that he's a good guy who cares about humanity, cares about lots of stuff. And it's great for me to play a character that you're not exactly sure if he's good or bad, or if he's gray, or what it is. So for an actor, it's a joy to play something that no one really knows what's going on, and for me, it was really a treat to not just play a villain that I've done so well for the last several years on television, but to play a real life man who has an agenda to be the ultimate patriot. And my father came over from Ireland, walked straight into the Army office and made me American in 1947, and they shipped him overseas for 5 years in the Army. But when he came back, he was a United States citizen, and he was very proud of the time that he spent in the service, and he, until his dying day, he was so proud to be Irish, but also so proud to be an American, and what America gave to him and his family, and in particular his kids, and me being one of them. And so I get to play my dad on television, which is pretty fantastic.
That's a great true life story in itself, Neal. And I suppose in relation to doing my research about Project Blue Book, there was a series held back in 1978 to 1979. You're probably aware of an NBC called Project UFO, and when you were researching for your role in relation to James Harding, did you pay much attention to that version of NBC, or did you go completely on a sort of different route than
completely different route? I start with, as an actor, I start with who's the character, where has he been, and where does he want to go to. Then that keeps an intensity to all my characters, which I quite like. So for Harding, it was more researching who, Twining, his real name, who Twining was, what other people wrote about him. His funeral, when he finally passed, was massive. And you don't get a massive funeral if you're not liked. So that had such a big funeral for him, said to me, okay, this guy was really liked, but he was so high up in the food chain that he became the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, which basically the number one guy to the president when it comes to the military. He had the president's ear, and the president had his. So he was great at what he did, and I really enjoy playing Twining, and it's been a blessing upon blessings.
Yeah, and I suppose, Neil, in relation to Project Blue Book, it's set roughly in that period, the 1950s, and as we know, that was probably the height of the Cold War in relation to between Russia and American sort of tensions. And do we see elements of that in relation to Project Blue Book? Maybe the element that there might be sort of antics, communism antics going on, or is it specifically a UFO sort of team, or is there an overlapping element?
Oh, there's definitely, using the Russians as more of a deflection at the time. There was the arms, who could get to the moon first, who could do this first, who could all, the Russians against the United States of America. And a lot of that was used as a deflection to blame the Russians for all this stuff. And as Aidan, one of my favorite scenes in the whole series is when he looks at me and says, the Russians have nothing to do with this. And he's right. But it's a great way to blanket the problem of, it's the Russians doing these problems. It's not the UFOs, because the president and Twining and the other people at the time thought if the masses hear about that there are UFOs coming to the planet, there'll be mass hysteria. And that's what they truly believed, whether they were right or wrong. That's what they were going to do. And so to blame it on other things as a deflection really kind of worked at the time. And at first no one knew what was going on. And then when they had definitive answers about the UFOs, they still had to blame it on something because they didn't want the populace to know about it. And whether they're right or wrong in doing it, they took a choice, and that's what they did.
And finally, I suppose, Neil, before I let you go, have you been on our shores recently to Ireland? And finally, maybe to finish off, you might speak as Captain James Harding and why an Irish audience should tune in en masse to Channel Sci-Fi and watch Project Blue Book.
Well, in Ireland, of course, every Irishman, every Irish woman should be tuning into this because there's so many Irish people in the cast. But more than that, and I say this, and I haven't said this about, I've worked in so many shows and been blessed to be part of so many things. This is different. There's something really special about the show, and I think that's why it's done so well in its first season here in the United States, because it is different, and it talks about things. When I was a kid, you'd watch a show with your folks and your brothers and your sisters, and after you sit around and you talk about what the show is about. And there aren't many shows like that anymore. It's either really dark shows on television, adult shows, or little kid shows. There's nothing really, any shows that everyone can sit around and talk about it. And this is one of those shows, and I'm really proud of that because, with 5 kids of my own, I like to watch it. And this is one of the first times my kids watch one of my shows, and we sit around after and we talk about it. And for me, I love that, and call me an old-fashioned guy, but I like talking about things with my kids and having them think, well, Dad, what's this about, or why did that happen? Is that true? And for me, it's pretty fantastic, and I think everyone loves the show because of that.
Neal McDonough, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you on the airwaves this evening. As we excitedly look ahead to Project Blue Book, as we said, debuting tonight on our TV screens on Channel Sci-Fi UK. We wish you best in all your upcoming projects in 2019, and hopefully, please God, we might speak to you sometime in the near future again, Neil. Take care.
Well, thank you very much, and God bless you. Thank you.